Hello again, I'm Wallaber, and after many years I am finally making a new entry in the JellyCar series. This is Devlog number 3. It's been well over a month since the last one, so let's get right to it. Okay, the main themes for this month. What did I improve? Pickups and the game camera. What's new? Worlds 1 and 2 are in the game. How about level design? Made some new levels and remastered some classics. And fixes involved optimizations and getting the game working on mobile. So, in more detail, what were the improvements from the last month or so? One big thing I worked on was the pickups in the game. So in previous JellyCar games, you could always grow and shrink your car, but in the new JellyCar, even growing and shrinking your car, in addition to the balloon and the sticky tires and other power-ups, are all now an object you find in the world. Levels could have any number of these power-ups in them, and I have more power-ups than I have buttons on the controller. So I had to make some kind of system where, depending on the level, we map power-ups to the correct buttons. I landed on a system that prioritizes the power-ups and starts with the most common button on the controller and works its way to the less common buttons, depending on how many are needed for that level. A side effect of this is that the button you use for a power-up could change from level to level. This made the job of player feedback for the power-ups even more important. So I spent a bunch of time on the feedback for when you collect a pickup in the world and it flies down to the UI to let you know where and which button you can press to activate it. This is a good example of the sleight of hand that game dev often has. Here there's an object in the world, when you touch it, that disappears, a new 3D object is created, which then animates and flies around in screen space down to the UI, and then that one disappears and the UI is enabled in its place. The whole thing looks pretty seamless, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I also spent some time iterating on the actual balloon pickup itself, as well as the sticky tires pickups, and then I made my first proper level for each of those pickups. Another improvement is on the camera. JellyCar is a tricky one because the movement can be very fast and also in any direction. So I worked on a camera with a dead zone so that you can drive around without the camera constantly reacting. But if you go fast enough in any given direction, the camera starts to look ahead in that direction to give you a good view of what's coming up. One distinct visual characteristic of previous JellyCar games was the big wheels that you sometimes get squished and launched through. I, of course, had those wheels in the new JellyCar game, but they didn't look the same because they were missing the sort of cutouts that make them look like wheels with spokes. So I finally took the time this month to make it possible to have certain objects have a kind of a cutout texture that you could see through them and give them a little more shape and character. So now the wheels in the game look more like classic JellyCar wheels, which also helps communicate their rotation as well. Okay, what's new? The big one is that worlds are in now. So a big concept of the new JellyCar game is that you have worlds that you actually drive around in and go to doors that take you to the individual levels. This allows for a little more exploration in the game and also gives an opportunity for each world to have a unique visual theme. So I took the time this month and actually built the first 2 worlds in the game, and here's how they're looking. One thing I noticed right away when building them is that you have to design these so that you can traverse them forwards and backwards. If you just played level 3 and you want to go back to level 2, you need to be able to drive there. Another unique aspect of the world levels is that I could have progression blockers that stop you and require you to complete the level before them. I've sort of settled on a ratio of every few levels you reach a blocker and you need to complete a level in order to make it farther into the world. I also put one big last door at the end of the world that has an indicator of the total number of levels you need to complete in this world for that door to open. And that door, once open, allows access to the exit to the world, which is the criteria for unlocking the next world. Another thing I found really fun about making the worlds is to take some element from the level you just played and incorporate it into the layout of the world. For example, this factory-themed level has lots of rotating gears. And when you complete this level and come back into the world, there's now a rotating gear that allows you to progress to the next section. Things like that. I also create a little thumbnail system, so each level door has a little preview animation of the level. I also finally made the bounds of the level have a distinct visual so you know where is the out-of-bounds areas. I think the out-of-bounds visuals turned out pretty nice by being literally inverted colors of the main play area. Also, up until now, the goal object, the stop sign at the end of each level, was static and fixed in place. This month I took the time to re-architect that so that it could be a dynamic live object. And that means that now I can make levels where the goal can fall and bounce and move with physics as well. I've only made one level so far that uses this. This is my golf level here, where you spend the whole level chasing the goal that gets thrown back and forth across the level until it finally lands in the hole and you can reach it. Okay, level design update. As I mentioned, I made a balloon level to make sure that pickup was working well, and I also made a sticky tires level to do the same for that pickup. In addition, I went back and picked a few favorite levels from the very first JellyCar game and sort of recreated and remade those levels in the new JellyCar. An example is the factory level from JellyCar 1, which had the memorable moment where you inflate the car inside that small thing and get picked up by it. And I recreated that moment, as well as a few other memorable JellyCar 1 levels. And speaking of level design, a big milestone happened this month where I finally made my very first playtest build. So this is a build of the game that I'm sending to a few people who I know will play the game and actually send me video of them playing it so I can observe them playing the levels. Playtesting is extremely important for all games, but especially games like JellyCar that are level-based and have some kind of sequence to the levels. One level being too hard can mean lots of players get stuck there and leave your game. Or too many levels that are too easy means players get bored and they don't come back to your game either. The only real way I know to make sure the levels are the right difficulty is to think about it carefully, make my best level, and then watch lots of people play those levels and take notes. A great example is this stream from my friend Motzi Makes. He actually streamed playing the game, which was perfect, because then I could just watch him play on his stream. And overall, he had a good time with the game, so things are looking great. But a few things stood out to me. One, he would always go backwards at the beginning of a level just to see if something was over there, if the level designer, me, had hidden something over there. And that was a good reminder that once I get most of my main gameplay in, I need to go back in and add more secrets and things to discover. This next section was pretty interesting. At first he did what I expected, which is jump over this first wheel, and then this next wheel, see, if you aren't going slow, it'll hit you and knock you back. So I expect players to slow down and creep underneath it. But that's not what Motzi did. But look at this, he flips his car upside down and drives in reverse and is able to use that to squeak by. That's amazing, and certainly I never would have thought to play it that way. And it was also a good reminder that playtests not only help you find the flaws in your game, but also help you see how other players will play your game, because everyone will play it differently. And that allows you to see things in your game that you might not see otherwise. And of course, it wouldn't be another month without a bunch of bug fixes. This month I realized I needed a way to fly around the levels quickly for testing, so I added in a debug mode. I spent some time on the mobile controls and input for the game to make sure I could always have a working mobile version. One thing I noticed also from playtests is that some players would dramatically over-rotate their car. Like imagine the car's upside down and they want to flip back over onto their wheels. They would press the button until the car was right side up and then let go, but the car would keep rotating with its momentum and flip right back over upside down again. So I put in some code that actually dampens the rotation of the car briefly when you let go of the rotation input. This sort of slows down the momentum a little bit and makes it less likely that you'll over-rotate. Okay, I think I got a lot done this month. What's up next? Levels, 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 and level mechanics, and levels, and levels. So this next month I plan to add in a few more key level mechanics, as well as just make a bunch of levels so I can make my next playtest build and continue that pattern until the game is finished. There's also a few other features that are still hanging out there, like the custom sound recording feature, and leaderboards and replays. So that's about it. We'll be back again in a month or so with another update. If you'd like to follow along more frequently, you can check out my Twitch channel where I stream development of the game twice a week at twitch.tv/Wallaber. And of course, I'm always posting on Twitter and TikTok little clips as I go as well. Okay, see you next time.